Hey, it's John Foss, and I am talking to the one, the only Tom Arnold, and we are talking about the three-part docu-series, which is called Queen of Meth, and it's streaming right now on Discovery Plus. Tom, tell us all about this docu-series.
Well, it's a docu-series about my sister, Lori, who was the Queen of Meth, who helped bring methamphetamine to the Midwest and had a big operation out of Ottumwa, Iowa, where we're from.
I walk like a truck driver, I cuss like a sailor, I fight like a man. When we got the car lot opened up, I got a bunch of dealer plates. I'm like, well, I'm a dealer.
She became a big-time drug dealer and ended up in prison. Well, right.
But it's her story. It's a lot. There's also a lot about our childhood, growing up there, what that was like, and how and why she ended up in that business. And at 14, my mom made her marry a 23-year-old pedophile, and then her life sort of went off the rails. I can't say more than that, but it also has a lot of the crime that people like to watch. So I was living in the Twin Cities from '83 to '88, and during that time, my sister's business in Iowa grew exponentially.
I, as you know, am talking to you from the Twin Cities, and I'm actually from Iowa. And I remember when I was growing up in Iowa, hearing that Iowa was the meth capital of the world. Did your sister actually have something to do with making that happen?
Well, she definitely had a hand, and the great thing about this documentary series, they have the original DEA guy on there, and she married a biker. Her second husband was a captain of the Grim Reaper motorcycle gang, and they tended to just do that anyway back to the coast, and she eventually started dealing with the Mexican cartel, and then eventually said, hey, why don't we just make it here on the farm instead of having to do all these middlemen. And so, because our factories had shut down, the Hormel meatpacking plant that I worked at in Ottumwa for 3 years out of high school went on strike to support our brothers in Austin, Minnesota, in a famous mid '80s strike, and they eventually got their jobs back after a year and a half, and they fired everybody in my town. So there was economic misery. I mean, what a perfect scenario for this new drug to come to town.
And your sister Lori is being called the real life Walter White from Breaking Bad. When you were watching Breaking Bad, were you thinking to yourself, wow, this is hitting way too close to home? Or what was going through your head?
Well, I like Bryan Cranston a lot, and I like the writing was great. It may be a little uncomfortable to watch because of having lived that experience. I mean, it's a great show, but it's very well done. There's a lot of elements of that show that are right on the head, and my sister was living that life, until she went to prison. And what's funny is the first time she got arrested in 1991, they wanted to send her for life, and I got a great Minneapolis lawyer, a friend of mine, Ron Meshpesher, to come down. She would have gone to prison for life if not for Ron Meshpesher. And she ended up getting a 15-year sentence and got a 15-year sentence. He got it reduced by 5 more years. And so I was very grateful that I knew somebody from getting me out of trouble in the Twin Cities to help my sister.
You mentioned a little bit about your childhood and how your sister was forced to marry somebody at the age of 14. Tell us a little bit about what it was like for you guys growing up.
Well, Lori and I, Lori and our little brother were raised by our father because our mom left. I was 4, Lori's 3, my brother was 1. She was an alcoholic, married 7 times in our town, and she was a out of control person. Lori talks about the first time she did drugs was with our mom when she was 14. I moved in with our mom first because I didn't want any rules. I wanted to grow my hair. I wanted to drink, and there was no rules at our mom's house. And then when Lori came, she had a different relationship with our mom. I knew our mom was not a mom, but Lori worshipped her, and they became running around buddies and bar buddies and drug buddies and booze buddies. And then my mom ended up forcing her to go to Missouri. She drove her to Missouri to marry this terrible guy who also beat her. And so my sister, I had what I consider a reasonably normal life. I got in trouble, but at 14, my sister was gone. You know, on the way back from Missouri, they dropped her off at this guy's apartment, and then her life was over. She was a really good student before that, you know, good athlete. She still is a very nice person, but her life, her childhood was over. And you know, then she had to fend for herself from there on. And she ended up in drugs, which it does happen. And then she decided, well, I'm going to make this the biggest. You know, a lot of women aren't doing what she was doing then, especially that biker world, the misogynistic biker world. But she worked hard to build a massive business.
How's your sister doing now?
She's doing very well. I'm very proud of her. You know, she did go back to Ottumwa after a prison term and started doing it again, and then went back to prison for another 6 or 7 years. But she's been doing well. She never went back. I mean, in this documentary, she goes back for the only other time was our father's funeral 5 years ago. But there's a lot of old ghosts back there, and I went back and met her and did my thing too. She's doing well. She works in a factory, got a job with benefits. You can't do any better than that. She drives a forklift up in Ohio with her fiance, who seems like a very nice guy. He's not a drug guy. The best part of to me of the whole story is her son. Her son was 10 when both of his parents got busted, and his dad died in prison, and so all those years, myself and my family raised him, and he has never done drugs, and he doesn't drink, and he got married to a real nice Jewish girl last summer. I'm very proud of her son.
Money's the root of all evil.
Oh, shut the hell up.
Tom Arnold, thank you so much for being with us. Twin Cities, make sure you check out Queen of Meth, 3-part docuseries streaming now on Discovery Plus.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.